Did you know that the Federal Bureau of Prisons houses some inmates in facilities where violence is so common that they have their own teams of correctional officers just to manage the chaos? America's most dangerous federal prisons have a notorious reputation that's been shaped by decades of violence, corruption, and tragedy. These facilities are a far cry from the rehabilitation centers they're supposed to be, and instead, they've become breeding grounds for criminal activity and brutal violence. Today, we're going to expose the dark truth about America's most dangerous federal prisons and explore the impact they have on inmates, staff, and society as a whole. The history of federal prisons in America is a complex and tumultuous one, marked by periods of reform and regression. The first federal prison was established in 1891, but it wasn't until the 1930s that the Bureau of Prisons began to take shape as we know it today. During this time, infamous inmates like Al Capone and John Dillinger made headlines, and their exploits have become the stuff of legend. But behind the scenes, corruption and abuse of power were rampant, and it wasn't until the 1970s that serious efforts were made to address these issues. Despite these efforts, the 1980s saw a surge in violent incidents, including the notorious Lucasville prison riot, which left 9 inmates and 1 officer dead. The Marion Penitentiary, also known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, was once considered one of the most secure prisons in the country. But in 2008, a correctional officer was stabbed to death, and the facility was eventually shut down due to its violent reputation. The ADX Florence Supermax prison in Colorado is home to some of the most notorious inmates in the country, including Unabomber Ted Kaczynski and 9/11 conspirator Zacarias Moussaoui. But despite its reputation for being escape-proof, the prison has seen its fair share of violent incidents, including a 2013 riot that left several inmates injured. The U.S. Buchanan Prison in Pennsylvania has a long history of violence, including a 2011 riot that left several inmates injured and 1 correctional officer dead. The prison's special management unit is designed to house the most violent and disruptive inmates, but even that hasn't been enough to prevent outbreaks of violence. The FCI Petersburg Medium Security Prison in Virginia has seen its fair share of violent incidents, including stabbings and gang activity. And despite efforts to improve conditions, the prison remains one of the most violent in the country. At the USP Hazleton Maximum Security Prison in West Virginia, a 2018 riot left several inmates injured, and a 2020 stabbing incident left 1 inmate dead. The prison's special housing unit is designed to house the most violent and disruptive inmates, but even that hasn't been enough to prevent outbreaks of violence. From 2015 to 2019, the prison saw 15 inmate-on-inmate assaults, and 12 inmate-on-staff assaults. The MDC Brooklyn Federal Prison in New York has seen its fair share of violent incidents, including a 2019 riot that left several inmates injured. The FCI Lompoc Medium Security Prison in California has a long history of violence, including a 2013 riot that left several inmates injured. The prison's sensitive needs yard is designed to house inmates who require special protection, including cooperators and former gang members. But even that hasn't been enough to prevent outbreaks of violence. From 2015 to 2019, the prison saw 17 inmate-on-inmate assaults and 10 inmate-on-staff assaults. At the FCI Phoenix Medium Security Prison in Arizona, a 2020 riot left several inmates injured, and a 2019 stabbing incident left 1 inmate dead. The USP Pollock Maximum Security Prison in Louisiana has seen its fair share of violent incidents, including a 2017 riot that left several inmates injured. The prison's special housing unit is designed to house the most violent and disruptive inmates, but even that hasn't been enough to prevent outbreaks of violence. From 2015 to 2019, the prison saw 20 inmate-on-inmate assaults and 12 inmate-on-staff assaults. The FCI Otisville Medium Security Prison in New York has seen its fair share of violent incidents, including a 2018 riot that left several inmates injured. The conditions in these prisons are hazardous not just for inmates, but for correctional officers as well. In 2019, a correctional officer was stabbed to death at the FCI Yazoo City Medium Security Prison in Mississippi. The officer was working alone in the prison's chapel when she was attacked by an inmate. The incident highlights the dangers faced by correctional officers every day, and the need for improved safety measures in these facilities. The impact of these dangerous environments on inmates, staff, and surrounding communities cannot be overstated. Inmates are forced to live in constant fear of violence, and many are subjected to physical and emotional abuse. Correctional officers are at risk of being injured or killed, and the stress of working in these environments takes a toll on their mental and physical health. Surrounding communities are also affected, as the presence of these prisons can lead to increased crime and decreased property values. Inmates who are released from these prisons often struggle to adjust to life on the outside, and many end up back behind bars. This not only wastes taxpayer dollars, but it also perpetuates a cycle of violence and recidivism. Experts agree that the key to reducing violence in these prisons is to provide inmates with education, job training, and mental health services. By giving inmates the tools they need to succeed, we can reduce recidivism rates and create safer communities. As we reflect on the dark reality of America's most dangerous federal prisons, it's clear that reform is desperately needed. These facilities are not just warehouses for human beings, they're breeding grounds for violence and despair. By acknowledging the problems and working towards solutions, we can create safer, more humane prisons that truly rehabilitate inmates and prepare them for life on the outside. So what do you think about federal prisons? Do you think they're doing enough to keep inmates and staff safe? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about crime and justice, be sure to check out our other videos on the topic. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.